Welcome everyone to the Dr. Abs Healthcast. I'm your host, Dr. Brian Abasolo, aka Dr. Abs, and on today's show, we have the president of Nammex Organic Mushroom Extracts, Mr. Jeff Chilton. Now, Jeff studied ethnomycology at the University of Washington in the late 60s, and in 1973 began a 10-year career as a large-scale commercial mushroom grower. Jeff is the co-author of The Mushroom Cultivator, published in 1983. In 1989, Jeff established Namex, the first company to supply medicinal mushroom extracts to the nutritional supplement industry. In 1997, he organized the first organic certification workshop for mushroom production in China. Jeff is the founding member of the World Society for Mushroom Biology and Mushroom Products in 1994 and a member of the International Society for Mushroom Science. Namex extracts are used by many supplement and food companies and are noted for their high quality based on scientific analysis of the active compounds. I can't wait to talk mushrooms with Jeff Chilton, so let's get on with the interview. Welcome to the Healthcast, Jeff. How you doing today?
Brian, excellent. Thank you very much. Great to be here.
Great to have you on. Thank you so much for taking the time. And I'm really excited about today's show because you're basically going to talk all about mushrooms and how they basically can serve as food and medicine. And I'm just really intrigued by this subject. I have a lot of friends that, use mushroom extracts. So I guess let's just start it off for the audience out there. What are the nutritional benefits of mushrooms?
Well, it's kind of interesting because when I started my career in mushrooms, and I studied at university, but then I went to work on a commercial mushroom farm in 1973. Very, very big farm growing the button mushroom.
Okay.
And at that time, classical nutritionists thought that mushrooms had no food value, were nothing more than a nice, flavorful quasi-food, maybe a garnish or something. The reason they said that was because mushrooms are low in calories. So, and that's like way before the days when really calories were sort of like, oh, people actually wanted sort of low cal foods, but it's just kind of interesting that they didn't have much more information. Mushrooms have 20 to 40% protein, high quality protein.
Wow, nice.
A good amount of the essential amino acids. I think there's only one missing there. They're mostly carbohydrate, but good carbohydrates. Like, are you familiar at all with mannitol?
Yes, I am.
Mannitol is a very slow acting sugar. And what we're really in a lot of ways trying to stay away from are those carbs that just give us that burst of energy, unless that's what we're really working for.
High glycemic, like the high.
Absolutely right. I mean, mushrooms are really low glycemic index, and part of it's because of the mannitol. They also have a carbohydrate called a beta glucan. And we'll talk more about the beta glucans because the beta glucans are what make mushrooms medicinal. So they've got these, the mannitol, the beta glucans, low in fat, B vitamins, B1, 2, and 3, good amounts of B vitamins. And then in terms of minerals, they've got reasonable amounts of phosphorus, potassium. All in all, a really good food, high in fiber too, which is interesting. So if you're eating mushrooms, and that's first off what I really recommend to people, is that they eat mushrooms. You've got a lot of fiber there. They're not really that easy to digest in terms of like, most normal foods that are processed or are just easier to get at. They have a cell wall that's very difficult for us to digest. And part of that are those beta glucans.
Yeah. That's crazy. I was actually late to the party. I didn't like mushrooms growing up. I didn't like a whole lot of vegetables growing up, but then I had them in pasta and with steak and chicken, and now I absolutely love mushrooms. So I'm all about them. So tell me, Jeff, how did you get into the whole mushroom business?
Well, being born in the Pacific Northwest, I was raised in Seattle, and in Seattle, we have the most perfect climate in the world for wild mushrooms.
Mm,
And that's a good thing and a bad thing because, we get a lot of rain
a
out
lot of
here.
rain. Yep. Yep.
So it's the evergreen state, Washington State, right? So beautiful forests, lakes, rivers, and lots of wild mushrooms. So as a youngster, I got out with friends of my parents of my friends, went mushroom hunting, really enjoyed it. And then in university, my major in university was actually anthropology,
Mm, okay.
but they had a fantastic mycology department, which is the study of fungi. So I took courses on mushroom science and kind of paired it up with my anthropological studies. So I studied the use of mushrooms for food, for medicine, and in shamanic purposes. And of course, once you go out into the jobs market, there are not a lot of jobs for anthropologists, Brian. I mean, come
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
Maybe more today than back then, but back then you had to go on and be a teacher.
Yeah.
So I went to my mycology professor. I said, "Hey, I'm kind of interested in growing mushrooms. What do you think?" And he said, "Well, there's a mushroom farm 60 miles down the road. Go down and talk to the owner. I know him. Go down. Maybe you can get a job." I went down.
Yeah.
I got a job there. I was there for the next 10 years
Wow.
working and literally living with mushrooms.
Wow, that's incredible. So let's break it down for the audience a little bit. Like, what exactly is a mushroom and what is its natural, I guess, its growing cycle?
Well, what we call a mushroom is it's a fungal organism. And first of all, if I'm going to grow mushrooms, how do I do that? Mushrooms don't have seeds.
Mm,
So what do I use to get them started? Well, mushrooms have spores. Now that's not what we plant as a mushroom grower, but the spore goes out, it lands on the ground, it lands on a piece of wood. It's all over out there. And when conditions are right, those spores will germinate. They will come together and form a network. That network is called mycelium.
mm,
We normally don't see the mycelium. It's kind of like you normally don't see the roots of a plant. The mycelium is embedded in the ground or the wood. And what it's doing is it's breaking down all of that organic matter
mm.
that builds up every year. I mean, think about it. Leaves. I mean, your neighbor hates you because you got a tree that puts leaves in his yard. Branches, flowers, or any plant that is annual and dies. We've got all of this organic matter. That's part of what fungi do, is they break down that organic matter into humus for use by plants to grow. So we've got this mycelium, which is the body of this organism, the vegetative state. When
Okay.
conditions are right, like out here in the Pacific Northwest right now, it's the fall, the rains come, the temperature goes down a little bit, up comes the mushroom. And I don't know if you've noticed mushrooms in the wild at all, but it's like we're walking along and all of a sudden we go, "Oh man, look at that. There's a mushroom. Just came up overnight. It wasn't here yesterday." Wrong. It's actually been there for a while, but it finally reached a size that you noticed it.
Got it. Got it.
But it's been growing there for a week or more. And so now we've got the mushroom. The mushroom comes up, it develops, it opens up its cap. Underneath are all these gills. They produce the spores. Out come the spores. We've got a completion of the life cycle. So the important takeaway here is three what we call plant parts: spore, mycelium, which is like the root structure, and the mushroom. And this is so important for herbal medicine or even food. I mean,
Okay.
nobody's eaten mycelium as food because you'd have to dig it out of the ground or out of the wood. It wouldn't work, right? So we
Gotcha.
eat the mushroom. But when it comes to supplements, we're always wondering, okay, is that the root that we're getting? Is it the fruit that we're getting? Is it the leaf? Is it the flower? Because each one of those parts may have a different amount of the medicinal compounds.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
So this is really important, and that's where the mushroom is what's been used for thousands of years. not only for food, but as herbal medicine. And that's sort of what we know from traditional Chinese medicine, where they've been using mushrooms for a long, long time.
So it might be a silly question, but you gave the example of, you walking along the forest and you see a mushroom. How dangerous or not dangerous are those mushrooms? Are those edible mushrooms? Are they able to be eaten? Can we take them home and cook them, or should we be careful? Because I know there's different types of mushrooms.
Do not ever take those home and eat them unless you've got an expert with you.
Gotcha.
Because, I mean, look, it's not just mushrooms that can be poisonous.
Yes.
There are poisonous plants out there.
Yes.
There are
Absolutely.
poisonous animals, poisonous fish. So the fact is that, and I tell this to people all the time, look, there are mycological societies in big cities. They love to take people out. Go out with an expert, learn a few mushrooms, learn which ones you can eat, which ones you don't want to bother with. Because most wild mushrooms, they just don't taste good.
Yeah.
So no point, right?
Absolutely.
So yeah, don't ever pick a wild mushroom and eat it without it being properly identified by an expert.
Gotcha. Okay. Disclaimer out there, everybody. Disclaimer. So you are the president of a company called Namex. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Yes.
Okay. So Namex is organic mushroom extract. So I want to know how you grow your mushrooms.
Well, it's really kind of interesting because most medicinal mushrooms grow on wood. So in nature, a lot of them are growing off of trees, or they're growing off dead trees or pieces of wood. And what's interesting is that what they're growing in is important to produce the medicinal compounds.
Gotcha.
And so what we grow our mushrooms on is sawdust,
Okay.
or in some cases on a wood log. And these are techniques that have been worked out for a long, long time. They first started to grow shiitake mushrooms. Have you ever eaten shiitake mushrooms?
Yes. Yes.
Oh man, what do you think?
Oh, great. Love
Delicious,
them.
eh?
Yeah, absolutely.
I love shiitake mushroom.
Yeah.
I mean, it is just, the flavor is just amazing.
Yes.
They learned how to grow shiitake mushrooms in China in the 12th century.
Wow.
They didn't learn to grow the button mushroom, which you see as the common mushroom in the supermarkets, until the 18th century in France. The button mushroom is actually called the mushroom of Paris. And the reason is they grew them in the limestone caves all around Paris, where they would mine the limestone for buildings and things like that. Well, the reason they went in the caves, because the caves had a very standard temperature that was pretty much the same all the time, just kind of perfect for the mushroom. That particular mushroom that they grew, the button mushroom, doesn't need light to grow, which is kind of interesting, right? I mean, mushrooms don't really need light to grow like a plant that is photosynthesizing.
Correct.
But most mushrooms need light to develop properly. So, but at any rate, we grow all our mushrooms off of wood products. We grow them under very natural conditions. Have you ever been to a mushroom farm?
I have never been to a mushroom farm, but I'm interested now.
Ever seen like pictures of how they grow or anything?
Never.
I know. Isn't that kind of interesting? It's like, we all know how, wheat grows, and we've seen veggies growing and stuff like that, but mushrooms, no. Well, in North America, especially, they're all grown indoors in large buildings, like warehouse buildings.
Okay.
And so
like a controlled environment, basically.
Absolutely controlled environment. Temperature, humidity, fresh air. I mean, a real solid environmental machines that keep that environment perfect for the growth of that mushroom.
Gotcha.
Now, the way we grow our mushrooms is we grow them outside in shade houses
Okay.
where they get natural light, natural air. They're grown seasonally when the temperature is right for them. So a certain mushroom like reishi mushroom loves hot temperatures. It grows during the summer months, harvested in September. Others like shiitake, maitake, lion's mane, it is growing from October through November, and it's harvested mostly in November, and in case of lion's mane, late November and early December. So we like to grow ours under with more natural conditions. And look, you can't imagine how many kilos of mushrooms we are growing every year. I mean, it is literally tons and tons, hundreds of tons of fresh mushrooms.
Yeah, you're pushing some weight there. That's crazy. And it sounds like that more natural environment, is just going to produce a more quality product. Now, as far as medicinal mushrooms, excuse me, what are I guess their primary uses for the audience out there who may be interested in trying?
Well, the key here is that they have these beta glucan compounds, and they actually potentiate our immune system. And our immune system has these certain cells like macrophages, helper T cells, um, NK cells. And what these beta glucans do is when we consume the mushroom, we actually have receptor sites
Mm,
down in our intestines where these beta glucans will come down there. They'll hit those receptor sites, and then they will stimulate the production of these immune cells. So
wow.
the key benefit from medicinal mushrooms is this immune potentiation. And look, that's something that acts for us in so many different ways. I mean, it may be that these are antibacterial or antiviral or can also be just, for example, like the liver, help our liver. Like some mushrooms help to actually the functioning of the liver.
Wow.
So there's many different ways that the beta glucans will work, but the key thing is that they're sitting in the background. I mean, it's not like taking an aspirin, Brian, or taking an
Yeah.
IBU, and you're like, okay, that pain is now gone.
We don't have
Or
receptors for all that, do we?
no, no. So we have the receptors for the beta glucans,
I
which is
know.
is really cool. And one of the things that I love about mushrooms is that they're a food, but they're also a medicine.
Mm,
Now, isn't that what you're trying to do when you're promoting a diet for somebody?
absolutely.
Is you want that food to be nutritious and providing these nutritional benefits. But if that food also has, and a lot of foods do have these phytochemicals in them that
Yeah.
have this other aspect to them, like I think about broccoli, and it's got these compounds in there that are very beneficial. Broccoli, of course, is my favorite vegetable. I really like broccoli. Maybe second after mushrooms.
No,
But that, isn't that it? Food as medicine, isn't that
absolutely.
really the key that we're all after? And so for me, I look at mushrooms as the forgotten food,
Yeah.
the missing link in our diet. So I'm always telling people, get mushrooms into your diet. They're a fantastic food. They also provide you these medicinal benefits. And what I say too is, look, before you supplement, put them into your diet so that you've got them there. And then if you're looking for a little more, you can use them for supplement purposes.
Yeah, and especially, I mean, with you talking about the immune system benefits, I mean, especially in today's world, 2020, with a pandemic, I mean, it sounds like everybody should be on some type of a mushroom extract. What do you think about that?
Well, hey, let me tell you. I mean, look, in the last 4 years, and I started my business Namex in 1989.
Mm.
In
Been around for a
1980,
while.
oh yeah, in 1989, there was not a single supplement company that had mushrooms in their product line. You know, you had all the standard herbs that were in there, whether it be ginseng or ginkgo or echinacea or all of that, but mushrooms, nobody. I had to, at a lot of these health food expos, I'd be there just walking the floor and then later on with a booth trying to educate people to the benefits of mushrooms. And sometimes to be walking around. You ever seen a reishi mushroom?
Never seen a reishi mushroom.
A reishi mushroom, Brian, it's like it's got a cap that looks kind of like a ram's horn, this beautiful spiral shape,
Okay.
and it's red, but it is hard as wood.
Huh.
So it's a woody mushroom. So we don't eat reishi mushrooms as a food mushroom, maybe in a tea, but no. So it's been utilized as a herbal medicine for thousands of years. I'm walking around the floor of some of these big expos, and I've got this reishi mushroom. I said, have you ever heard of medicinal mushrooms? No. Well, have you ever seen a reishi mushroom? And I look at no, and they say, well, let me see it. And they look at it and they go, is this real? And it's like, no, it feels like a piece of wood. I mean,
Yeah.
because it's a dried mushroom, right? We've
Yeah.
dried it out, but it's not a food mushroom in that sense. So right from the very beginning, it took a lot of education to actually bring these mushrooms into the awareness of people in the supplement market, for example. And then in the last 4 years, I mean, look, every time you turn around, somebody's writing an article about mushrooms, right?
Yep. Yep. They're
I mean,
huge
it's just
now.
like, and you look out there and there's mushroom coffee, there's mushrooms in chocolate. You'd be amazed at all the things that people are doing with our mushroom extracts. It's so innovative. There's nothing they don't do with them really. So our business right now, and especially with COVID, has literally exploded.
Yeah.
And just keeping up to the demand has been our big issue because
It's a good problem
it's
to have.
well, I know, even though that's not the problem that a lot of our customers like to have,
That's true. That's
which
true.
is like, hey, we just put this product line out there. You can't keep us in stock.
It's like sold out first week.
Yeah.
But it
Hey,
sounds like you were ahead of your time. I mean, 1989. I mean, a lot of people didn't know about it then, but now look at you now.
yeah,
And
I
I'm sure.
know. It's true. And the fact of the matter is, they talk about a snowball kind of going downhill.
Yeah.
And it's like anything, you sort of reach a sort of critical mass. And you know how it is too, that it's like I was telling you with that mushroom, well, all of a sudden it's like, wow, where'd that come from? It's like that band where all of a sudden you go, wow, this band's an overnight sensation. No, they've been there for 20 years grinding it out,
You
right?
never saw the struggle. That's like with anybody in life. You know what I mean? Like nobody sees the grind and all the blood,
Yeah,
sweat, and tears. They just see
yeah.
the final product.
That's
Uh,
absolutely right.
so tell me about I mean, maybe a reason why, you had so much experience, so much knowledge, and were able to basically bring that to the supplement industry in the States. I mean, you traveled to China to basically learn about mushrooms, though. How did you go about starting the first organic mushroom farm in China?
Well, as a commercial mushroom grower of 10 years at this very, very large farm, I was very aware of the economics. And also, while I was there too, I became a member of what was called the International Society for Mushroom Science. And in 1989, they had a conference in China. And I went to that conference, and man, Brian, it is amazing. I mean, think about it for a minute. You've got over 1 billion people. The number of mushroom scientists they had there was incredible. The
Wow.
number of mushroom research stations that they had, the number of mushroom growers and processors. In the United States, there is one university that actually has a mushroom cultivation group. one. That's in China. You've got dozens of these research institutes all over the place that are researching methods, how to cultivate, how can we, increase our yields, can we bring new mushrooms into cultivation. So I was exposed to that at this conference, and then all through the 90s I traveled throughout China, visiting farms, visiting these research institutes, going to conferences, meeting processors. And that's when I started bringing over mushroom extracts from China, because here's the big problem. Did you know that mushrooms are all picked by hand?
I did not know that.
Every single mushroom, every single mushroom is harvested by hand. Think about that for a minute. If you're a vegetable grower or whatever, and you see the machines out there, they're harvesting this and harvesting that. Every single mushroom has had somebody touching it, harvesting it before it gets to the shelf. Wow. It's expensive to grow mushrooms. And the reason that you really can't grow them in the United States and sell them as supplements is, okay, you're out there, well, yeah, but we've got all these mushrooms on the marketplace. It can't be that expensive. Well, no, it's a fresh mushroom. Mushrooms, like vegetables, are 90% water. Dry that mushroom out that you're getting $5 for. Now you've got to get $50 for that same pound of mushrooms.
Oh, wow.
The economics do not work for supplements. And that's something that's very important to know about, because there's a lot of products in the United States that are being produced and called mushroom that aren't really mushroom. If you can imagine that. Are you familiar with a food product called tempeh?
Tempeh. No, I'm not.
Tempeh is something that they manufacture and eat out in Indonesia. It's a very common food. It is cooked soybeans with with mycelium grown all over it. So anybody out there who's been eating tempeh, you're eating mushroom mycelium. Well, fine. That's a food product. That's great. But what some companies do is they will grow out this tempeh. They'll dry it, grind it to a powder, and then they'll sell it and call it mushroom.
A capsule, yeah.
And it's like, okay, it's got the mycelium there, the vegetative part of this organism, which if it were just the mycelium, I would say, okay, yeah, that's got a reasonable amount of medicinal compounds, not as good as the mushroom itself, which is pretty complex, but yeah, okay. But no, it's mostly the grain, and they grow it out on rice or oats or other types of cereal grains. And what you're mostly getting is you're getting starch. Well, look, mushrooms do not contain starch. Absolutely do not. Mushrooms contain glycogen.
Okay.
Just like us, right? Our storage carbohydrate, glycogen. Mushrooms have glycogen, small amounts of glycogen. They don't produce a lot of it. So we've been able to analyze all of our products for beta glucans. And in this test, it also measures the alpha glucans. And alpha glucans are the starches. And these alpha glucans are also polysaccharides. Well, beta glucans are also a polysaccharide, but what we're measuring is what's called the alpha glucan. And that's where we would pick up the glycogen. Or the alpha glucan is also the starch. So these products, instead of having a lot of beta glucan, they're loaded with alpha glucan, this starch. And even though the beta glucans are also polysaccharides, well, yeah, and these companies might say, oh, we look at all the polysaccharides we've got. Yeah, but you don't have the right ones. You have actually the starch in there, not the actual beta glucan that we're looking for, which is a beta glucan So, so
So we're looking for the beta glucan. So I guess like for my audience out there who obviously is intrigued by everything that you've talked about as far as the benefits and whatnot, what I guess one question is how important is it to buy organic versus non-organic mushrooms? And then also, how do people out there know that they're purchasing a quality mushroom supplement?
well, in terms of buying a quality product and knowing what you're getting, I would say, for one, look for a product that says that gives you an amount of beta glucans on the
Okay.
label. If it says made in the United States, unfortunately, and look, I love supporting local products. Absolutely. I think that's important. Unfortunately, in this case, if it says made in the United States, it is most likely going to be these tempeh-like products,
Hmm.
ground to powder, of course, and in capsules. And if you look at the label, on the back of the label, maybe the front part of the label says reishi mushroom or shiitake mushroom, and it has a picture of a mushroom. Look on the back in the supplements facts. Then you look and see whether it says mycelium. Some companies will actually reveal that. And if you look at the other ingredients, sometimes they will say myceliated oats or rice or something like that. These are real giveaways. So you really, if you, and look, you know what it's like going into a Whole Foods or natural food store and looking into the supplement aisles, right? It's just like, oh my
It's
God.
confusing. It's overwhelming.
Oh, totally. I mean, you have all these different brands. They're all selling herb or mushroom or something, and you're just like, where do I even begin?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things you definitely have to look for is look for something that tells you the amount of beta glucans in there,
Okay.
and also make sure if it says mycelium or myceliated rice or something like that, that's what you'll be getting. You'll be getting mostly rice or some kind of grain. And look, the last thing you want to be buying is starch, right?
Absolutely.
And you can even pour these things out of the capsule. If somebody's got that right now that's listening, pour it out of the capsule, taste it. If it tastes bland, that's probably because it's mostly starch from these grains. So for example, a reishi mushroom, we talked about earlier, is very bitter. If you've got a reishi product, you should be able to pour it out and taste it. It should taste bitter. If it
Yeah.
doesn't, man, you've got these starchy products. So just be aware of that when you're, and there are, people, well, but aren't there laws about that? Yeah, of course there are. But you know what? FDA is interested in something if it's killing somebody, right? They've got too many things to deal with without something like this. It's like, okay, here's just some companies making a business out of this. And yeah, it's not what it's supposed to be, but hey, yeah, we've got something else here that's causing damage.
Yeah. And so you were mentioning anything produced in the United States, probably not the best quality. So I guess, what foreign country should we be looking for as far as production of these mushroom extracts?
Well, you know what? It's sort of like my company's been organically certified since 1992, and when I knowing again the economics of mushroom growing, that's why we started producing our products over there. And in 1997, like you noted, I mean, I went over there with the organic certifier from the United States, OCIA, to actually have the first organic certification workshop for mushrooms in China, 1997, which allowed us to produce organically certified mushrooms and certified by high quality European certifiers. And before our products leave, and here's kind of a cool factoid, which is mind blowing. China produces 85% of the world's mushrooms.
Whoa.
Think about that.
Crazy.
85% of the world's mushrooms. It's like, really? Yeah.
So I had a question about that because obviously we hear a lot about pollution in China, and people are now afraid to buy Chinese products. So how do you view this issue, and are there like actual regulations in China that can control this?
Oh, man. Let me tell you something. First of all, let me just say this. You know, it doesn't really matter where something in the world is grown, in the sense that every country out there is using tons of chemicals on all their products, right?
Yeah.
Of course, we don't want to eat something that's been grown on the Gulf Coast of the United States, right? It's
Yeah.
like down in Texas, Louisiana, and those places with all of the petrochemical plants and all that. No, of
Correct.
course
Yeah.
not. So we're growing our products, our mushrooms, deep in the mountains. And before they even leave China, we're testing them for heavy metals, for pesticides, micros. So they're tested before they leave. And then when they arrive in the United States to our warehouse, we test them again, the whole panel of tests again. So they're being tested twice. And look, we can't sell our products unless they meet the standards that are set by the U.S. government. So we have to meet those standards. But you know, it's one of those things too, where I I support organic production of foods. I buy organic products, but a lot of people in the United States might go, oh yeah, well, too expensive or this or that. Well,
Yeah.
you know, how much of a chemical load do you want? And that those chemicals are not necessarily going to take you down today, but 40 or 50 years from now, that may be different.
Pay for it now, you end up paying for it later.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And so, you know, for me, look, I understand why people are concerned
Yeah.
about Chinese products. I am too. That's why we go through all the testing to do it. But let me tell you a little story about China, and that is, if you get caught with a product that is dangerous, um, justice is swift. Oh my God.
Oh wow.
You know, in the United States, I mean, there may be people that are like, yeah, they want swifter justice and no appeals and all of this. You don't get appeals over there. If you get convicted, and if you have put out a food product that has killed people, hey, a week later, you are out wherever they do this, and it's the end. It is over. Justice is swift over there. So
Wow.
people get punished severely. And it's the same thing if they're shipping products, if they're manufacturing products, and let's say those products are coming to the US and they get flagged for some reason. If that company gets too many of these flags and it gets back to the Chinese government, they put these people out of business. They
Oh wow.
literally shut them down. I mean, they are pretty tightly controlled over there in a lot of ways. I mean,
Yeah.
we think, okay, companies over here, they do certain things, they get fines and the rest. Sometimes they get shut down. Okay, but how many of those people get prosecuted? Depends. I mean, if they kill multiple people, sure, they might. But over there, man, it's swift justice. It
Yeah.
really is. So,
Well, it's great that they're, using a strict form of regulation. So I guess to finish off the whole topic of mushrooms, Jeff, why would somebody out there in my audience purchase a mushroom supplement? So maybe talk about, obviously you talked about the immunity boost. What other benefits, could somebody see by trying your product in particular? And just why should anybody purchase a mushroom supplement in general?
well, you know what? Um, there's a mushroom out there. It's a couple mushrooms that we can talk about. One of which is called lion's mane.
Heard about that one? Yes.
You heard about it,
Yeah.
okay? Um, and there are some really good clinical trials that have been done in Japan on lion's mane that demonstrate that it will stimulate what's called nerve growth factor. And these are things that the researchers have told us, that it will stimulate nerve growth factor. That's something, it's an amino acid that we produce that helps to organize and maintain our neurons.
Nice.
Okay, as
Okay.
we get older,
Support it.
we sort of produce less neurons, unfortunately,
Yeah.
which leads to things like dementia and
Yep.
loss of memory. And you know what? Look, we all I always enjoy it when people 30 years younger than I am have a memory lapse, and I think, okay, it's not. I'm not doing too bad here, right? But as you get older, that's what happens. Your memory starts to slowly get worse. So lion's mane is used by a lot of people out there for cognitive issues,
Mm,
and a lot of people use it as a nootropic to sort of I don't know, focus,
increase
stimulate
focus. Yeah.
their brain a little bit. So lion's mane is interesting in that way. And here, the fun fact about lion's mane for me is that 5 years ago, I must have sold maybe 100 to 200 kilos a year of lion's mane.
Wow.
Right now, we sell 10 to 15,000 kilos of lion's
Wow.
mane. I mean, that's our number one seller of all of our raw materials. It's lion's mane. It's the number one. If you go into the supplement market, it's probably the number one mushroom that gets purchased out there. All right now, there's 1,000,001 different brands of it. So lion's mane is something that if you're looking for sort of a cognitive boost or something. The other mushroom that's kind of interesting is cordyceps.
Cordyceps. Heard of it before. I don't
Cordyceps,
know what it does though.
well,
Explain.
cordyceps, yeah, cordyceps is actually called caterpillar fungus. And
Really?
so,
Okay.
so the wild cordyceps grows up in Tibet, and what happens is the caterpillar in the fall hibernates, and it hibernates under the ground. But while it's hibernating, the spores of the cordyceps will uh, basically germinate on this caterpillar. They'll consume it. And
Whoa.
in the summer, up comes a little tiny um, mushroom that looks like a blade of grass. It doesn't have the normal shape.
Okay.
And they call this caterpillar fungus, and they're out on their hands and knees looking for it in the pastures of Tibet. Right now, that cordyceps sells for $20,000 a dried kilogram.
What?
Now that's the
What does
wildcrafted.
that do? What effect does it have that's worth 20 grand?
Well, it has the effect of making some people very rich. I don't know.
Okay.
No, 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 none
It's a
of
good
that.
investment.
Yeah, no. The fact of the matter is that's the traditional cordyceps, but today we actually cultivate cordyceps,
Oh,
and we can sell it at a very reasonable price. It's a different species, but it has the same benefits. And what it's been used for traditionally is lack of energy and fatigue. And it has shown some benefits for high altitude and oxygen utilization. So guess who uses that? Athletes and
yeah,
anybody into athletic types of
absolutely.
activities. That's where cordyceps is right now. And it's really kind of it's a cool fungus. Just think, have you ever seen it? I mean, it's just like when they dry it out, it's just like you see this caterpillar and this little black thing that grows off the head of the caterpillar. The caterpillar basically, it never wakes up. It never wakes up and
Wow.
flies away like it's supposed to, right? Instead, it's like, no, you went to sleep and that's it. And so they go out, and when they actually harvest it, the wildcrafted one, they move the dirt back so that they pull this caterpillar out, and they keep it in perfect shape, because if they damage it, it's not worth as much.
Wow. That's
Yeah, yeah.
incredible. That's incredible. I mean, like so much information, so much knowledge. Jeff Chilton, the owner of Namex Organic Mushroom Extracts. So, Jeff, just tell the audience about your social media, your company. Like, where could people find you on the internet so that they could purchase these fabulous products?
Well, Namex.com is our website. Namex is a business to business, so we sell the bulk extracts to other companies to put them out under their brand name. I've got lots of great educational information there, slideshows. You can see how our mushrooms are grown. And then if you're looking for a retail product, we have a division called realmushrooms.com. And if you go to Real Mushrooms, you can buy the actual products there, capsules or powders. And we've also got a lot of great information there too. And Brian, we just put out a new product, and I am so excited about this. It's a Real Mushrooms product. It has First of all, mushrooms have a compound in them that when you expose it to UV, it turns into vitamin D.
Oh, that's important.
Have you ever heard of vitamin D?
Absolutely. D3.
Yeah. Well, this
Especially during
actually,
these times, people need to be getting more vitamin D more than ever.
exactly. Well, this is actually now D2.
Okay.
And so it's interesting because, D3 comes from lanolin from sheep's wool for the most part, and it's processed to get the D3 out. This is D2. All we do, it's a mushroom powder that is exposed to UV. So the D2, so this product has mushroom extract. It's got 2,000 IUs of D2, and we put 30 milligrams of chelated zinc in there.
Mm. So it's an immune booster right there.
Oh man, as this whole COVID thing was going on, I thought I used to take zinc all the time. I used to take vitamin D all the time. I'm not really a very good supplement taker, so it's been years. But I thought, oh man, this is the time. Vitamin D, zinc. I'm going to create a product that I want to take. I did. I've got some now. I'm taking it every day, and I'm like, okay, finally back on the zinc and the vitamin D train with the mushroom extracts. So it's really cool. I'm so excited about that product. I think people really like it.
Absolutely. So the website is Namex.com. That's Namex.com. Organic mushroom extracts. Jeff Chilton, thank you so much for coming on the show. I think everybody out there has gotten a whole lot more smarter when it comes to mushrooms, and I think that everybody could use them. So check them out, guys. Jeff Chilton, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Hey, thanks, Brian. It's been my pleasure. Great talking to you.
Appreciate you. Take care. Bye-bye.